Hello, this is Mr. Stansbury. I'm going to take you through the notes on increasing and decreasing. At the end of this, you should be able to say, I can find intervals when a function is increasing and decreasing by observing a graph or if given the equation of a graph. Okay, so first things first. A graph is increasing if it is going up as you move left to right. So just always think you're reading a book. Always go from left to right. Okay, a graph is decreasing if it's going down as you move from left to right. So let's call this right here, let's call this the minimum, and we'll call that the maximum. So from here up to here, basically, if you're always going left to right, this is going down. So this section right here, this over here is decreasing. Because as we're moving left to right, this graph is going down. Now from here to here, as we're moving along this graph, it's increasing. The y value is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So this is increasing. Okay, and then from here on to the end, as we're moving along, the y value is getting smaller and smaller. So this would be back to decreasing. Okay, so just draw your little arrows here. From here to here, it's increasing. Here on, it's decreasing. Always read it left to right, and that should make it hopefully pretty straightforward. Okay, now also with that, when the slope of the tangent is positive, the function is increasing, and the slope of the tangent is negative, the function is decreasing. So really, if you think about it, if we were to draw, say, a tangent line on here, so like let's say if we drew the tangent right here, if you'll notice, this has got a positive slope on the tangent. That means it's increasing. Right? Say right here, the slope of that tangent there is negative because it's going down, so that would make decreasing. Okay, so hopefully this is also fairly straightforward. Okay. Let's do this. Let's take a look at a little example here, and we're going to find intervals when f of x is increasing and decreasing. So think of this as it's got arrows on both ends here. Right, so it's going on forever and ever each way. So let's do this. I'm just going to draw a little increasing and decreasing arrows on this. So right here, this is definitely going up, so this is increasing. From here to here, it's going down, so that's decreasing. And then from here on, it's going up, so this is increasing, right? So we got two spots where it's increasing, and then one place here where it's decreasing. So to find those intervals, here's what I like to think. If you do this little, I don't want to call it a trick, but if you just use this system here, it'll make it hopefully really straightforward. So let's do this. Start and end. And then on this here, we're going to put the x in the middle here. Where does this one here start increasing? So really they're basically asking, where's the start of this line here? Since this goes forever and ever, there is no start. S-T-A-R-T. That is terrible. You cannot read that. I can't read it. If I can't read it, there's no way that you can read it. S-T-A-R-T. There we go. Start. So if it doesn't have a beginning, just leave it blank. Okay. Where does this thing stop increasing? Right here at the x value. We don't care about the y values. We're just looking at the x values. The y values are helping us figure out if it's higher or lower or whatever. So it stops increasing when x is at -4. Okay. So this thing is increasing when x is less than -4, right? Any point over here less than -4, the x value, this graph is definitely increasing as you read it left to right. Always reading left to right. Okay. This middle piece is decreasing. Where does this thing start decreasing? When x is -4. So we're going to use a start and end thing again. And then where does it end the decrease? It ends at 1. We put x in the middle, and it's always going to be the less than signs. When x is greater than -4, when it's greater than -4, it's decreasing as long as it's also still less than 1. So right in this range here, between -4 and 1. Okay. And then this last part here, we've got another increasing one. So I'm going to just squeeze that one in right here. Where does this thing start increasing? When x is 1, right? And then where does it stop increasing? This goes forever and ever, so it doesn't have an end. So we just leave that part blank, and we just draw our little greater than sign here. As long as x is greater than 1, this graph is increasing. Okay? And that is our final answer right there. It's increasing when x is less than -4, and also when x is greater than 1, because you can read it backwards, or you can say when 1 is less than x. And then it's decreasing when x is greater than -4, but it's less than 1. Okay? Okay. One last piece here. Example 6 has got a couple of examples here, but let's do a quick comedy break before we do that.
Get home and rip it out. The rest of us could stay for
All right. Find the intervals where the following functions are increasing or decreasing. Okay, now we can use our graphing calculator for whatever we want on these here. So there's two ways to do this. We could go through and we could find the derivative of this, and then find where we've got maximums and minimums with our derivative function, or we can simply plug this thing into the y equals on our graphing calculator, right? So let's do that. -2x to the third, and move over minus 6x squared plus 3. Okay, so then all we want to do there is just hit graph here. And really all we need to do is find the maximums and the minimums on this graph here, and thankfully they both show up right in here. So I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to kind of sketch this graph on here. It looks like this, right? And what we're really interested in here are these, the maximum, these little local minimum and local maximums right here, these 2 points. Okay, so let's find those points. Second, calculate, and we want to find the minimum and the maximum. First one we want to find is that minimum there, so we're going to go down to 3, push equals, and then we're going to move this cursor over here to be left of our minimum. So long as it's to the left of it where we start, we're good. So left bound, yep. And then go to the right of that. Now we don't want to go too far right, because if I went right all the way over to here, it would say that that's the minimum point, which is true for this range, but we only want to find the minimum in this range right here. So that's far enough over. I'm going to push enter, take a guess. Yes, push enter again, which I thought I did. Oh, there it is. Minimum is -1.999998. That means -2. -5 is this right here. -2, -5. Okay, and then we want to find this maximum here as well. So second trace, and we go and find that max. Whoops, went too far down. Enter, and let's see, as long as we're to the right of it, sorry, to the left of this maximum, and again, as long as we're not way over here, we're good. And then we want to go just to the right of it. That'll be good and far to the right. There we go. Enter. Now it's going to find the maximum y value in there, which looks like it's at 0, 2. Yeah, there's that. Remember, e to the -6. That's 0, 3. So 0, 3. So now it says find the intervals where the following functions are increasing or decreasing. So increasing, we'll do I, and then decreasing, we'll do D. So I like to do the start and finish. Okay, so let's do this in a little bit different color here. So we've got decreasing here, increasing here, decreasing there, right? Because always read it left to right. So first one is decreasing. Where does this thing start decreasing? It doesn't have a start, so we just leave that blank. We put X in the middle here. When does this thing stop decreasing? When X is at -2. So it finishes at -2, and we always put a less than sign in there. When X is less than 2, so over here, this graph is always decreasing. Okay. Next one is increasing. So where does that thing start increasing? It starts increasing at when X is -2, stops increasing when X is 0. Put X in the middle, and then both less than signs. This thing is increasing when X is greater than -2, over here, but less than 0 over here. So in this range. Okay. And then the last piece here is decreasing. Where does that start decreasing? When x is 0. And then when does that stop decreasing? It doesn't ever stop decreasing, so we don't put a finish in there, and we just put that there. And that is our final answer there. So it's increasing when x is greater than -2 but less than 0. It's decreasing when x is less than -2 or x is greater than 0, but not both, right? Because you can't have both of these things going on at the same time. Okay? Okay. Really, this second one here is pretty much the same as the first, so if this made good sense, you can probably stop the video now and start attacking these. But if you want to see another example, here we go. So we'll open up our graphing calculator, and we're going to put this equation in. Okay, so here's our function. You can do this on Desmos as well, but especially if you are testing, you will not be able to use Desmos while testing, but you can use your graphing calculator. So try to get as familiar with it as you can with the graphing calculator. So there's our graph. So it's a little bit hard to see. Can't really see our maximum and minimum. You don't have to see it. We can still calculate it without it, but it's always kind of nice to see it. So I'm just going to adjust my window a little bit. I want to go a little bit higher. So that means I want my Y max to be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to do my Y max as 20 instead of at 10. And if I graph that again, it'll at least give me a little bit better peak. There we go. There's our max and there's our minimum. Okay, so then we just got to go through and calculate each of those. So second trace. And oops, apparently I didn't register my second part. Second trace, let's find, oh shoot, I can't remember what the graph looked like. First one's a maximum, second trace. We want to find the max first. Okay, enter. It doesn't officially, you don't officially have to find the maximum first. I just like to go left to right so I don't forget anything. So just make sure it's to the left of that maximum, enter, and then make sure it's to the right of that, but before it hits the next turning point. So that's good. And it tells us that the max here is -1.09 and 11.05. So we got -1.09 and 11.05. So our graph on this one looks like this, basically. Doesn't matter how pretty or not pretty this graph looks. We just want to know what these points are. -1.09 and 11.05, I believe. Is that right? Yep. And then we want to find this minimum point here as well. So second trace. And now we want to find the minimum. Push enter. I'm just going to go a little bit over there just to make sure. Enter. Make sure I'm past the minimum point here, which that's definitely past the minimum point. Enter, enter, and it will find this minimum point right here, which is 0.20 and 7.78. 0.20 and 7.78, I believe is what that said, right? Right. Okay, now we have enough to do our make our little start and finish thing here. So let's do this first part here, increasing, second piece decreasing, third part increase. So let's do increase, decrease, leave ourselves a little bit of room. We've got the start and finish or end, whichever one you prefer. X's are going to go in the middles here. Let's see. First one is increasing. So where does this thing start increasing? The arrow goes on forever and ever, doesn't have a start. But where does it finish increasing? When X is -1.09. Put the less than sign in there. Second part, where does this start decreasing? At -1.09. Where does it end decreasing? At 0.20. Right? And then the third one is increasing again. Where does that start increasing? Starts increasing at 0.20. Where does it stop increasing? It doesn't. It goes forever and ever, so we leave that blank. Put the X there, and always the greater than sign in between, and that is those are our intervals for increasing and decreasing. It's increasing when X is less than -1.09, or when x is greater than 0.2, and then it's decreasing when x is, oops, I forgot to put the inequalities in here, x is greater than negative 1.09 and x is less than 0.20. Okay? All right, that's all we have for increasing and decreasing. If you have any further questions, please feel free to ask. Thanks.